Hear us?
Yes, we can.
All righty, perfect. I believe you may be ready to get started.
Okay, we're gonna give just another minute, just in case there are people that are trying to log on, and then we'll get started shortly. Give us 1 to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Everyone here?
Nick, we are ready to get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carla Marable. I am the Director of Communications at the Franklin County Engineer's Office. On behalf of County Engineer Cornell Robertson, we welcome you to the Cook Tri-County Ditch Final Hearing Informational Meeting. You may or may not know that our Franklin County Engineer also serves as our drainage engineer, which is why we are hosting this meeting and why we are discussing drainage today. This meeting is, we're hosting this as a way to familiarize the public with the petition ditch process and allow you to ask questions in an informal manner. Some of you may have attended our other meetings. We've had at least 2 similar meetings in the past, and this is our final informational meeting. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment and introduce some of our teammates that we have with us. I'll start with our riparian and environmental engineer, Jim Ramsey. We also have Abby Obert, which is our drainage project engineer intern. Brady Kaler, which is our drainage technician. Don Murphy, who is also another drainage technician. With us, we have Nick Sulis. Nick is our governmental affairs liaison. And with many of you, we have Nick Nemenko, which is our information systems technician. He will be handling the technical side of those of you in person. He will help field questions, and he will make sure that our volume is okay and make us aware of any technical issues that he has on that side. Before we get started and we turn this over to our formal presentation, I just want to let you guys know, you may have noticed that this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be available in a few days on our website. We ask that you stay muted until after the presentation is over. We will field questions at the end. We will open it up to questions. And without further ado, let me make sure, Abby, Ramsey, did I cover everything?
I think so.
Awesome. Yep. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Abby Obert for our formal presentation.
Thanks, Carla. As she mentioned, my name is Abby. My name has been on all of your letters, so any kind of calls that you may have received probably came from me. So we're just going to go over where we are in this petition. I know it's been a couple years in the making, so kind of going over where we are in this process, getting us ready for the final hearing that's occurring next week on December 6th. So again, the petition was filed back December of 2018. We had the view for that in February of 19 and the first hearing April of 19. Since then, we have done a detailed design of this project with an outside consultant. And now the plans have been signed by the 3 county engineers of Delaware, Licking, and Franklin County. They've been submitted to the Joint Board of Commissioners, and now we're ready for that final hearing on December 6th. So at the final hearing, the Joint Board is going to hear all the information, the final report, in the plans submitted by the county engineers. When this process started, Franklin County was appointed as the lead county on this, but all 3 counties have had equal input into this process. At the final hearing, landowners may offer testimony. So it is in person, but there's also a virtual component. So it is being held in the Franklin County Commissioners building in the Commissioners room. So you are able to attend in person and speak to the commissioners, or you can do it virtually, either way. After hearing all the information and the testimony from landowners, the joint board will vote to either approve the improvement, including the plans and the assessment schedule, or to dismiss it altogether. And it's based on 3 factors, and these are all written in the Ohio Revised Code, section 6131. Is this project necessary? Is it conducive to public welfare? And do the benefits outweigh the cost? So going into the components of the final report, this has been submitted to the joint board, and it's also on our website. So if you wanted to, after this meeting, go through and kind of read what we've written, it's on the Franklin County Engineers website under public meetings, so you're able to do that. So the according to 6131, it kind of outlines what goes into the final report. So that includes just the petition process, the existing conditions of the project area, a project scope of what exactly the improvement is looking to achieve. And then we'll get into a cost estimate of the project, a calculation of assessments. So assessments being what each property owner will be assessed for come time for taxes, a benefit versus cost analysis. So making sure that the benefits from the improvement outweigh the costs of it. And then finally, the recommendations from the county engineers to the commissioners on their decision in this process. So a little history on the Cook Tri-County Ditch Petition. It was originally petitioned and constructed in 1899, began at Black Lake Creek and extended north to the Delaware-Franklin County line. Since then, there's been improvements done in 1909, 1946, and 1962 through the Ohio Revised Code 6131. But when that was occurring, there was no maintenance fund set aside. So that's why it was petitioned 4 times, was because they had to keep doing that to keep making improvements. There was no maintenance funding set aside to continue. And the original petition consisted of subsurface drainage and then open ditch construction. So these are some pictures from 2019 of the existing conditions that we're looking at now. A lot of these are along the Fancher County line intersection. So you can see a lot of flooding at that intersection. It leads to a lot of public safety issues, considering the water, and especially in the winter when it freezes over, you get that slippery conditions on the intersection. There's also inadequate drainage for home drainage systems and home sewage treatment systems, also leading to a public safety issue with that. There are a lot of holes in erosion, especially in the agricultural fields, caused by a broken tile. And then it's just an inadequate drainage outlet for agricultural fields, reducing crop yields. So here are just some more existing pictures that we had taken with drone photography, just looking at some of those field tile blowouts. And then this is the map of the drainage improvement project. So as you can see, there's a lot going on right now. You should have received a copy of this, but breaking it down real quick, the project is broken into 3 separate parts. So the first part is the southernmost section, starting in Franklin County, but extending east. And this is known as part 1. So we'll get into what each one is. So the next section is that orange and black dashed line, that's part 2. And then part 3 is the purple and black dashed line along Fancher Road. So you can probably find what parcel you're in and kind of determine exactly where you are within the watershed. So looking at this, the southernmost section, the southwesternmost section is the outlet for the system. And then along Fancher Road, we get to the upmost or upstream most part of the project. So people along Fancher Road will be using a lot of this improvement for their own parcels. So we'll get into what the plans are for each part of the project. So part one, it's pretty basic, including some open channel maintenance, some rock line channel construction, and the clearing of brush and vegetation. And I've kind of broken down the cost estimate for part one. So the actual construction of the project is around $20,000. Project administration, survey, engineering. This includes the design cost for part one is around $6,500. The drainage maintenance, this is spelled out in ORC 6137. So when we start assessing for this, we want to make sure that there's a maintenance fund set up. So when we need to come in and perform maintenance on the system, that we have a little bit of funding set aside. And then a contingency just that's just typical with construction projects. So the part one total project estimate is $32,010.79. For the second part, it includes surface drain reconstruction, subsurface drain tile installation, and the clearing of brush and vegetation. And we're still looking at the same breakdown of cost, but it's also, so we still have the construction at $153,744. Project administration around 27 or 28,000. The drainage maintenance funding set up at around 9,000, and then the contingency. So we get a total project estimate for part two at $217,997.02. And from that, we have that Delaware County is being directly assessed for $11,405.70 directly within the county line road right of way. So the improvements that are happening within the right of way, county line road, Delaware is being directly assessed for. So the amount that's being assessed to the watershed is $206,591.32. So just making you aware that Delaware County is being directly assessed for this, but then since they are a public entity who does own land within the project, they are still being fairly assessed the same way that all of you are as residents. So while they are being directly assessed for this, they're also paying their fair share throughout the entire project. So it's not, they're not just paying the 11,000. And the same thing for Monroe Township. And so this is part three. This is the northernmost section. It includes subsurface drain tile installation, clearing up brush and vegetation, private drive culvert replacement. Since part three is running along, running parallel to Fancher Road, there is a lot of driveways where the culverts will need replaced. Road culvert replacement when we're crossing along county line. And then surface drain reconstruction. So as Delaware County was directly assessed, Monroe Township is also being directly assessed for work within the Fancher Road right of way. So that is the $8,500.80. So the total amount of the project comes out to $212,000, but the amount that's being assessed to the parcels is $203,572.87. So probably wondering how we come up with the assessments. So each parcel in the watershed is assessed a portion of the cost of constructing and maintaining the improvement. So this is written in the revised code 6131 on how exactly we go about figuring out who is being assessed how much, but it kind of boils down to just a couple things. property size, so how big is your parcel, the percent of the system used. So as I had mentioned, the people at the downstream aren't using the whole system, they're only using the most downstream end, whereas people on the northern leg or northern part they're using the entire improved system. Land use, so looking at, is it residential in nature, is it agricultural or wooded or impervious, so looking at the right of way as well. And then how much benefit is actually being received from the project. Assessment rates, so this is actually up to the commissioners to decide, but we always recommend that there's 2 semi-annual installments for up to 30 payments. So that means that the assessment total is being paid over 15 years. And then there's the maintenance assessment that comes in with the revised code 6137. That comes in, as I had mentioned, just for maintenance associated with the project. So just looking at breaking it down a little bit further, you can see that I have a scale of least beneficial to most beneficial for the project. So woodland would be weighted the least, just because there's already a lot of pervious area and infiltration rates are high, whereas in commercial road right of way, home sites, there's less infiltration, so a larger benefit from a drainage improvement project. So looking down at the graphic below, if this is your site or if this is your parcel that you own, we broke it down based on GIS aerial data. So we broke it down based on residential, so how much of your property has your home on it. And then if you had an agricultural portion of your land, what's the area of that? And then the same for woodland. So we took each area separately and weighted them and created a total. So looking at the section 6137 that I keep mentioning, the Drainage Improvement Maintenance Fund. So all projects that are completed under 6131, 6133 are placed on the county's drainage maintenance program. So all of the projects that are under this program are inspected annually or more frequently if needed. And landowners may make requests for maintenance under this. So if there is some issues that you think are in this watershed, drainage wise, you make a request to us and we'll look into it. And maintenance assessments are levied annually or as needed. So this would be about the same as the construction assessment. It's usually around 3%, but those are also collected annually to put into that maintenance fund so that when, if improvements or maintenance needs to be done, we'll have the funding set aside for it. So next part of the final report were factors favorable or unfavorable. So looking at, is this project necessary? So favorable, it does improve the surface and subsurface drainage for the watershed. There is that reduction of ponded water near the intersection of Fancher and County line. So talking about that public safety for motorists and people traveling. Improve outlet for household sewage treatment systems and for residential drainage systems. That not only increases safety, also increases property values, and as well as environmental concerns about degradation. So also a reduction of the future deterioration, so making sure that the system doesn't get any worse. I had mentioned previously the increased crop yields, and then the annual inspections and maintenance in perpetuity. Some unfavorable factors for this project would be the temporary land use disruption during construction. The cost of the construction and maintenance assessments may be a burden to some landowners, and would also include the removal of some existing trees and brush in the improvement area. So that's going back to some of the scopes from the parts of the project. Back to the benefits versus costs. A study from Ohio State had determined that improving the subsurface drainage increases corn yields by 24 to 39% and increases soybean yields from 13% to 46%. So this, the improved drainage could lead to a potential average increase in profit of around $111,000 per year. So increase in residential properties, communities with good drainage tend to have higher resale values. And for new construction, developers spend on average $8,700 to attain adequate drainage. So we have 71 residential parcels in the watershed. So this is a potential benefit of $617,000. I keep mentioning the home sewage treatment systems. So in order to replace a system that fails, it ranges from around $15,000 to $25,000. That's a local price. So inadequate drainage can deteriorate the condition of your system. So it's also, talking about the environmental degradation, and then the quality of life and positive neighborhood perception of having a good drainage outlet and not having your property flood. So the conclusion from our report was to recommend that we move forward with the 3 parts, but there is the option where part 1 can be made independently without the other 2. We can also, parts 2 and 3 are contingent upon parts 1. So part 1 would be completed, and then part 2 could also be added on, and then part 3 would be added on top of that. There is no, the way that it's designed, we can't do just part 2 or just part 3, but a decision to deny part 1 will deny all parts of the project. So the 3 county agencies, Franklin County, Delaware County, and Licking County, we believe that this project is feasible and would benefit the property owners where the benefits outweigh the costs. And so we are recommending to the joint board next Tuesday that we approve this petition. However, the testimony brought by the landowners should be given significant consideration as well. So making sure that they're hearing all of your opinions on this. So here, I'll open the floor to questions. I do have the information for the final hearing. So as I mentioned, it's in the commissioner's hearing room, but there's also that Zoom component as well. So at this point, we can have some questions.
So at this point, if there is someone on the Zoom and you have a question, now is the appropriate time to unmute yourself. Actually, there are responses. You can put a thumbs up or a raised hand. If you look at the bottom, there are reactions. And then Nick, I will check in with you for questions for the in person. So we'll start with those on the Zoom. We have 2 people. Do you have any questions? I'll give you a quick moment to either unmute yourself or raise your hand. Okay, hearing none at this time.
Carla, if I could say something real quick.
Yes.
We at the county engineer's office, we are here to provide technical knowledge for this project. We're not the ones approving this petition. We're not advancing this. So there's no way for us here to deny this petition to happen. So if you really feel strongly about this, I recommend showing up to the final hearing on December 6th. I mean, you can call me and tell me your feelings, but without offering testimony to the commissioners, there's not much that we can do. So, all right, make sure that was out there.
No problem. Thank you, Abby. Nick, are there questions?
Yes, ma'am. I do have a question.
Hi, I'm Kristen Price. I live on Fancher Road. We got together with some neighbors a couple of weeks ago, and I have 15 of the homes located on Fancher Road that have signed a notary signed petition that they would like to be removed from the third portion of this project. I've sent a certified letter including all this information to the county commissioner's office. I mailed it on November 18th. For some reason, it has taken 10 days to get to the office, so I don't see that it has been delivered yet. But I have copies of the petition here as well, or I have 10 copies for somebody who liked them, but there is a large group of us that want out of the third portion of this proposal.
Abby, Jim, did you guys hear the last part of that? It was a little garbled on my end.
Yeah, I couldn't understand it.
Okay, so Nick, we got everything the resident said up until the last portion. She said she has copies of the petition, and then we lost what happened after that.
Can you say that again, please?
I just want to make sure that they're in the right people's hands. I understand that they need to be there 5 business days prior to the formal hearing on the 6th. Since I sent certified mail on the 18th, one would have assumed that the Postal Service would get it from Johnstown to Columbus. But if they don't, how can I get petitions in people's hands since there are 15 of us that want out of the project, including someone here this evening who just said they would want to add. Two more.
Do you have a copy of this, of what you sent to the commissioners? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Yes, that's a yes.
Okay, yeah, if you, I mean, you can leave it with Nick or email me a copy. I'll make sure that it gets to the clerk. I'm not sure about the post office, but yes, definitely we can make sure that that gets to the clerk. And then also coming on Tuesday and speaking with the commissioners as well.
I can't come on Tuesday. Can I speak via the Zoom connect?
May I, if I may chime in here? Yeah, the answer is yes. You may if I heard you correctly, can you participate via Zoom? And the answer is yes. The commissioners have made provision for that. If you cannot make it to downtown Columbus, which we understand is not the easiest commute, especially in the mornings, but yes, you may participate via Zoom. And we do think, and we want to stress that it's very, very important, not only your written testimony, but also any testimony you can provide in person via Zoom live will be very instrumental to help the Tri-County Board of Commissioners to understand the issues that you face. As Abby had mentioned, we don't have the ability here to change anything. The petition goes forward as has been presented. By the way, one other thing I wanted to add, if I understood, and I do apologize, the sound quality is a little difficult in that room. However, if I understood you correctly, you've got a petition with many or several property owners, especially along Fancher Road, that are seeking to remove themselves from the petition. Unfortunately, the time has passed where that can technically be done to reduce the size or to change the petitioned area. However, at the final hearing, the commissioners, the Tri-County Board will have the opportunity to change the project and the scope or portions of the project, the extent of the work proposed to be done, the nature and kind of work to be done. So the reason I point that out is, as Abby had mentioned, there are 3 parts to this proposed work. There's part one, which is further south and west, part two, and then part three, which is along Fancher Road. That your testimony with respect to whether or not part three or parts two or three are necessary is best presented to the commissioners. I apologize for a long-winded answer there, but I hope that was helpful.
I understand. It's also my understanding that they're approved independently, and so if part one moves forward, part three doesn't have to move forward. I also understand that the work is done based on the last house that signed the petition, and since we have signatures from people removing themselves from the petition, that would be an opportunity to reduce the amount of repair that is being planned on Fancher Road.
So after the, there's an appeal period after the view is set. So that occurred back in 2019. That would have been the time to change the watershed boundary. So this is kind of set on where it is right now. You are correct that part three and parts one and two can be approved independently from three. There will, because you're in the watershed and this is set, there would still be assessments assumed for the other two parts that get approved. You'd be sharing those costs with other parcels in the watershed, but and I don't believe the revised code says anything about removing names from a petition this far in the process.
I guess that all of us are struggling with the new corporation that has purchased the land that directly affects our properties and what they're going to do there. A lot of it's on crop benefits, and I don't understand what crop benefits there are going to be when you already put housing across the street or a mall or any other sort of industrial building. So I will be happy to attend the Zoom meeting on Tuesday. I pass on to other people's questions and concerns.
Yep, and make sure to email me a copy or send it with Nick. That way we have it.
Will do.
Thank you.
Tonight, excuse me, tonight I talked to Troy Alderson's assistant, and he's very upset at the fact that residents are being charged all this money for this project when the government has given townships all over the place, all over the gobs, well, he put it, boatloads of money. He is going to be checking into all this because he can't believe that residents are being told that they have to pay outrageous amounts of money for this project when it should just be paid for by the 3 counties, not residents. It's absurd. I think you heard me.
I think we did, ma'am. I was waiting to see if anybody else wanted to chime in. And what I want to say, we appreciate your comments. If we can, again, please encourage you to appear either in person or virtually on Tuesday morning to provide the same comments. The only statement I will make under Ohio law, governments have limited abilities to address private drainage issues, generally speaking. Now, counties have the ability and the responsibility to provide for adequate drainage to protect the roadways and the road rights of way along the county highway system. Counties and townships, generally speaking, do not have the ability to work to solve private drainage issues when private property drains water onto neighbors, and it continues to cascade down. We're not allowed to exceed or to the right word, to go outside of the road right of way or county owned right of way in order to make these improvements. That's why well over 100 years ago, Ohio law provided for a private method by which citizens could help improve their drainage problems by utilizing this drainage petition process, where private property owners will derive some benefit from it, and as a result, they're obligated to pay. Now, the counties, state of Ohio, if they have any state right-of-way, townships also have to contribute their fair share. So that's the reason why we have this petition process, and private property owners do have to participate in the cost. Having said that, we also do recognize that there has been a large amount of federal dollars that have been sent to the state of Ohio and down to the county level and some township level as well. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to direct that kind of funding. However, we do think it's important to share your concerns with the Tri-County Board of Commissioners along those lines, ma'am. And we thank you for your comment.
Yeah, I have a property manager in Highway 9. The intersection that you're talking, and you showed the pictures of, that was extremely flooded. A lot of that has been taken care of in the last 2 years. People have upgraded their property by putting in drainage, and the county has come out, both sides, Delaware and Lincoln, and had put tiling in there to where we don't have that type of flooding anymore. So to me, you're doing a false advertisement on how much water problems that we have on that corner. It's not there anymore.
Maybe several years back,
Yeah, those pictures had to be several years back.
2018.
18, well, there you go.
After 2019.
Oh, yeah.
The flooding is still there.
Not that much.
Oh, quite a bit. I live there with County Line. 4 houses from the corner.
Yeah, on that side, there was quite a bit, but on the Delaware side, we didn't.
Well, first of all, even when it does rain, I've lived there 41 years. My husband grew up in Johnstown, so he's been on this road forever. And nobody's ever fixed it. So with that being said, even though when it rains, you took your little pictures and you see this flooding's over within 24 hours. Within 24 hours, you wouldn't even know the flooding was there. The only reason a petition was signed, and it was signed blindly, was a neighbor came around and said that Patty Priest, we don't even know her, needed help because her front yard flooded. She lives on county line. She's literally getting charged less money than me, who lives like 14 houses down Fancher Road. I don't understand how you think people can afford. Ours is $17,662.97. Other people to the right of us, they're going to pay $19,000, $20,000. Troy Baldos, I can't find his name right now. He said, "Who would even think that people would have $20,000 laying away?" You said on your little letter, "Oh, you can write a check." Oh yeah, I'm on Social Security and I'm supposed to write a $17,000 check. And you're raising my taxes $100 a month. And with Intel coming in, everybody in this room and everybody in this Johnstown area knows that our taxes are going to go up anyway. Without your little project, our taxes are going to go up with Intel moving in and our blocks being we're just gonna have taxes that way. So
Until and do all we need. Who knows? I mean, whatever. Yeah.
isn't it strange that this all became This was 2018 and everybody laid around on it until 2022 with Intel coming in. Sounds a little suspicious.
Yeah, after living there for 40 some years, nobody said a word to me ever about any of this stuff. About any of the drainage or anything else. Nobody ever walked up to my door and knocked on the door and said, hey, we gotta fix this. Nobody ever worried about it. Why worry about it now all of a sudden? I mean, we just went through this thing, the 62 being closed down here, Route 62. We probably had 60,000 cars go down the road during that period of time, a day. People go to work. Nobody worried about the road then. They were going in the ditch down there and they were going everywhere.
So my trucks. That had to
All
cost.
of a sudden, this has to be a really important thing. Why all of a sudden, after 40 some years, why?
And like I said,
Why?
we blindly signed this. We never signed it. We were told by the person that came to our house, oh, help her out. We're like, no, we can't, we can't pay for this. Oh, this petition is so that the counties, the 3 counties would fix the situation at the corner, not my yard, at the corner of County Line and Fancher. That's what we were told. And we, help whoever this priest woman is. Well, you know what? This priest woman, I don't even know if she's here. She won't even answer her phone from what I'm told. And she's rubbing her hands from this. Well, she's caused all this. And she's also blaming Troy for it. Oh yeah, she's blaming you. She said it's your fault. You talked her into it.
Really. Something throwing off anybody in, we did it willingly.
All we're doing is letting you. So.
Yeah.
He's the township. Well, that's what we heard. That's what we heard.
Well, go to law, because come out this way. And that's what they
Me and my
want.
wife.
So if I could say something here for a minute. One of the things to keep in mind is, and I apologize, I can't really hear clearly what everybody's saying, but I can get the general gist of what you're saying. It's important whether you're in favor of the petition or against the petition to come and speak to the commissioners when they have the hearing, or to send your comments in writing and they can be read at that hearing. And you can participate in person or virtually. Some of the things that I heard concern me, I'll address. The petition process is for private property owners to petition the county commissioners to make a drainage improvement. We didn't come to you and say, hey, we want to make this drainage improvement. Somebody came to us and asked for a drainage improvement and asked how they could do that because it's private property. And so this is the process that's available for that. And so we told them that, and we are fulfilling our responsibilities under that law. So we're doing what the law says we have to do under that process when a private property owner wants to petition the county commissioners for that. I can assure you that nobody on the staff of the Franklin County engineers or in Delaware County or in Licking County said to anybody that a petition was going to happen and the counties were going to pay for the improvements through the petition for that. That didn't happen. Not anyone on any of the staffs of any of those counties said that, I can assure you. Now, some of you are upset about the cost. That's a fair thing to go and say and to speak to the commissioners about. And there's processes in the code for you to file exceptions to the cost if you think that it has been done unfairly. But the code does say all the things that you have to take into consideration to do that. And you're looking at a situation where we're proposing that cost be split over 15 years. And that's an interest-free process, basically. But it's okay. Some of what I think I understood earlier is that folks who signed the petition, and this is important if I understood it correctly, folks who signed the petition asking for the improvement are now saying, hey, now that we've seen the cost, we'll take a pass. You don't have to fix my problem. And That's important. So we will prepare a map for the final hearing that shows where everybody is who signed the petition. And then we'll also look at the letter that you provided to the people who say they want to withdraw their request for that. Now, there's not really a formal process in the law for that. And it doesn't, I don't, Nick, you can tell me, but I don't think it's really covered well, but I don't think it's covered at all. But I think it's important to go and be heard, what you're saying to the commissioners. And those of you who are upset and are speaking here tonight, remember, this is an informal meeting that we really do because most people are not familiar with this petition process. So we're putting an extra meeting in to give you a chance to ask questions about the process, to make sure everybody's informed and understands it. But the time when you need to voice your disagreements or your complaints with it is with the commissioners. Telling it to us doesn't make a lot of difference here. We want to make sure everybody understands the process, what it is. If there's any questions that need to be answered, we want to provide an informal way to do that. I think that the intensity or the passion that I'm hearing here is more appropriate at the meeting with the commissioners, because nothing is going to happen with that tonight. This is just an extra meeting, to give information. So I want to turn to focus to, does anybody I understand some people were upset about the cost, and that some people who signed the petition maybe want to say the cost to me isn't worth it. I don't want to do that. But is there anyone who has questions about the process that we're going through and what's going to happen on the 6th and that kind of thing?
Mr. Ramsey, I do have a question, Karen.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Ramey, I want to just double check with you, because the letter we received that gave us the amount of the assessment we were going to pay specifically stated if we did not pay the full amount by January 3rd, it would be put on our taxes. Did not give a time length that they would be on our taxes. It also stated that the county or someone would issue bonds and we would be paying the interest that they were paying on those bonds. So the actual amount of money that was the assessment was not the actual amount. According to the letter, there's going to be an additional fee of the interest being paid on the bonds that are being issued.
That's a very good question to bring up. Thank you, because that is exactly how it's written in the code, and they could do that. I guess in my experience, our commissioners have not done a bond, but it's possible that they could. So I stand corrected there, but my commissioners have not, and they could, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it will be a bond.
I also have a question. Maintenance fees that Abby mentioned, does that mean that in addition to our assessment 5 years down the road, if they build 70 houses on those properties that you said are going to benefit from the reduced or better drainage, if they start adding a lot more drainage, the water runoff to the drainage in 5 years, and they say, well, we've got to fix this, we've got to improve it or maintain it or whatever, are we going to be assessed for the maintenance fees then also, while we're still paying for the initial project?
So if a property sells, let's say a farm field sells and becomes a subdivision and becomes residential single family homes, and you can help me here a little bit, Nick, but I think the assessments, they would have to be reallocated basically based on the new use of the property. So you would have to go through a process and reallocate those assessments based on the new land use for a significant amount of the parcels. If the system had to be enlarged because of new things, that is possible, but I think that it is unlikely. And the reason I say that is because new developments, when they occur now, are required to put in detention, and they have to reduce the runoff rate for those, the peak runoff rate from those developments to less than it is currently. So they should not cause a need to increase the size of the system. It'd have to be something really exceptional, or more likely a bunch of things, several different things happening, but it's probably very unlikely.
So what's the maintenance cost? Keep talking. You claim we're gonna have a maintenance cost. What is that?
So there's two assessments. One is to recover the cost for construction. And we are proposing, our report proposes that that is split over 15 years. And then there's a separate assessment for ongoing maintenance of the system. So as Abby mentioned early in the presentation, the system was originally built in 1899, and then four other times, it was repetitioned again to have improvements made. Well, they've changed the law now that when you do a petition, you do a maintenance assessment, so you don't have to keep going through the petition process. There's just a fund there to do maintenance on it. There's a funding source to do the ongoing maintenance. And so that's a much smaller assessment, but it's ongoing for the maintenance of the system. So
Yeah, how often is that?
Yearly, is it every 2-3 years?
And so you're saying 21 people have to keep paying for this drainage, when there's like 107 parcels that are involved in this whole thing, this little map you have. You're saying 21 people have to pay for it.
Nick, can you repeat the question for me? Because I couldn't hear it well. I couldn't understand it.
The question is, there are over 100 people that are involved in what's going on, and she's concerned that only 21 people are getting assessed.
So this isn't, thanks, Nick. This is an annual assessment, but everybody within the watershed will be paying for the maintenance assessment. It's not just a portion of the homes.
What's happening now? I'm talking about my assessment of $17,000 now. Why aren't 107 people paying for this? Why only 21 people?
So,
Right. Should have been
So-
divided. Everybody on Fancher uses Fancher. Every single person in half the town of Johnstown comes down Fancher Road. It's called the expressway to Western. Why? Only some people, why wasn't it divided
well,
evenly between
so
everybody?
the people downstream of that, the parcels downstream of that don't use that system at all.
Nobody
That
ever
question.
told us anything about this in the beginning. Why do we have to carry this on our backs right here? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Really
Can I
not.
answer? Wait. I was answering one question. Let me answer that question.
Yeah.
So the people who are downstream of part 3 don't use part 3, so they don't get assessed for it. The road does get assessed for it. So there's money to maintain roads and pay for roads, and the road has to pay its fair share. So the road maintenance, the entity responsible for maintaining the road has to pay their fair share. The reason that you have it divided into parts like that is because part 1, basically everybody in there is using part 1, so everybody gets assessed for part 1. Part 2 is used by all the people who are in part 2 or upstream of part 2. So part 2, part 3 areas is all those people that are upstream, and then part 3 is the very upstream part. So only those homes in the final part use that, and the roads in the final part use that. That's how it's written in the code. It's and so we followed what is in the revised code to do that. Now, what's the next question, sir?
Go ahead.
Two-part question. At the first couple of meetings, he said it was all upstream over on Beach Road. We were down. Now you guys are saying we're downstream, we're up. And then the second question is, we got a new neighbor in town. He knew nothing about this. He just bought the house. So is he going to be assessed with this? And if someone sells their house, does this fall under the taxes? Or next person picks up on the taxes?
Can you repeat that, Nick, for me?
So the question was, if somebody just moves into the neighborhood, are they also going to be responsible and paying their part of the assessment? And if somebody sells their house,
It's a new person. He just moved in. He's only been here like a month. He had no idea he did sign a petition, but he's getting a pretty good sized bill. So would he be responsible for that bill?
Absolutely, he will. He absolutely will, and he should take that if he's wasn't
Nobody
told
told
about it.
him. He had no idea. He probably wouldn't even apply. But if someone sells their house, so that's going to follow them too?
It goes with the property.
Okay, and then, like I said, at one of the first meetings we went to, everybody said the main problem was that beach road. They was the problem. We were downstream. Now you guys are saying we're downstream, they're upstream. I don't understand that part.
That's true.
They had just as much flooding there as what we had.
Because it baffled us when they said that the problem was up on Beach Road. I've attended most of these meetings. That's in the record somewhere.
They've changed the topography of the land more than anybody else. We haven't changed the topography of the land over there at all. There's nobody on our road that's farming. That I know
So
of. Maybe
when we
there,
say upstream or downstream, we're talking of where improvements are being built. So if your water flows through a part of the improvement, then you're assessed for that part of the improvement. If it doesn't flow through that part of the improvement, then you're not.
Can you say that again?
Mr. Ramsey, can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I think it said that. Mr. Randy.
Jim, they want you to repeat what you just said about the improvement
Okay,
upstream
so,
versus downstream.
so if the way your water flows, if an improvement's being built and your water flows through that part of the improvement, you're assessed for it. If you are downstream of something that's being built and the water that flows off your property never flows through that part of the improvement, then you're not assessed for it.
Question. So I'd like to know the answer to this, that I got an acre and not even a half. And you assessed my property more than any of the other ones down through there. Practically, because the neighbor next to me has one thing. And I'm almost at $18,000. Still have one acre. Still have one acre? Have 1.3 acres, okay? And then the other thing is, you guys sent the surveyors out there, survey that land down that street. Okay, when you surveyed it the first time, you stopped before my property. And he said, I even talked to the gentleman that surveyed it. And said the water flow, that's the end of the water flow going down towards County Line Road. 3 weeks later, the same surveyors were back out. And the answer to him was, the people from Franklin County, when it sent them back out, they extend the line the rest of the way, bringing more houses down. So my question is to you, how do you get shit to go uphill? Because my water flow goes the opposite way. Good question.
Can you repeat that, Nick?
I get shit to go uphill. The only ones I know that can do that is Franklin County.
Okay. If there's a sincere question in there, I'll answer it. If there's not, we'll just move on.
It is. You guys sent them back out to survey the property again. And then you said they wanted to extend line past my property, the next door neighbor's property, one more property down the street, to which the watershed is going completely the opposite way.
So it is not uncommon in any design project to send surveyors out multiple times, or for a design engineer to say, hey, I've got this survey, but I really need a little bit more to know where it is, to know something. And in particular, in the case of this, to say that you sent surveyors past the watershed break is not unusual at all. We would exactly want to know. I want to know where that watershed break is. And so if they didn't get it the first time, then we would send them back out. There's just nothing uncommon there at all.
Okay, but the shed was going the other way. He done said, you guys extend this the other way. My watershed goes the opposite way. It goes towards 62. He surveyed, he stopped right in my property because it's almost at the highest point right there. And the watershed goes that way, the next door neighbor to me, and mine goes the other way.
So we're not changing direction of flow here. So if you're in the watershed, you're in the watershed, your water goes this way. If you're not, you're not. We're not changing direction of flow. And we don't do that. So if we want to look at your individual situation, give us a call. We'll sit down and look at it with you. But the indication that the surveyors came out twice and that shows something nefarious is just completely off target.
Okay, and how do you come up with the amount on my acreage? That it's basically, then you start going down other ones that are way less than mine. And the property is wider and deeper. I'm
So-
almost a small partial on it.
So Abby went through some of the basics in her presentation of how the assessments were determined. And if we want to talk about your individual property, contact Abby and we'll schedule a time to do that with you individually. This isn't the time, and I'm not prepared in this meeting to discuss individual parcels and the assessments. So anybody who wants to look at their individual assessment, contact us and we will do that individually.
I'll contact you, but I basically own the highest piece of ground on Fancher, which ain't very high. No water even gets onto my property. So that's kind of a head scratcher myself.
Yeah, ditch out front. Our property doesn't come in at all.
This assessment, frontage.
Are there any other questions about the process? Okay, so any person that wants to contact us to look at the calculations for your individual property or to discuss how your property drains, where your property drains, that type of thing, contact Abby and she will schedule a time to do that, and let her know when you do that what your question is. So if your question is about the calculation of your assessment, that discussion is going to be with Abby. If your question is about the water flowing off your property, where it flows to, that type of thing, it would be one of the drainage technicians. And then if there are questions about the process of the petition process and what we're setting up for next on the 6th, let's get those questions out and get them answered now.
Mr. Ramsey, can we let everyone here know how to get a hold of Abby if they choose to do so?
Sure. Abby, you want
Yes.
to?
Say, do you want me to just give you my phone number right now? I did have it up on the PowerPoint, but so my phone number, if you're ready to write it down, it is included in the letters that you received. So it's on that one of the final paragraphs has, my phone number on it, but it's 614-525-5138. So any questions that you have about your individual parcel or about the project as a whole, you can call that number. Any exceptions that you want filed aside from the joint exception mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that those get filed with the commissioners 5 days prior to the final hearing. So making sure that we get those in by Thursday. You can send those to me as well. So if you call me, I'll give you my email address. You can also send it to the Franklin County Clerk. But do we have any other questions about the process?
Abby, will you put the slide up that has your contact information? Will you
Yes.
put that slide back up? Thank you.
All right, because if you're in one of the other counties, you're also welcome to talk to
Since this is
contact
a
your county
public
representative as
process,
well.
And we have a kind of a general public display on some website that goes through every property that's affected and explains why each property was assessed the way it was. I mean, it seems to me as a public, since this is a public meeting and we have transparency would require that every property owner can see what their property was assessed at and their neighbor's property. Because I think the neighbors, there's some concerns, understandable concerns, why some people are assessed so high and some people are assessed so low. And I understand project 1, 2, and 3, but I'm hearing discrepancies in project 3 among different property owners. And it seems to me that to make this as fair and transparent as possible, since you've done the calculation, you simply put on the website or on some public forum This is where property 1 was assessed and why, and property 2 was assessed and why, and property 3 was assessed and why. I think if you do that, you may eliminate a lot of the concerns that a lot of people have.
Mhm. So we could put up the spreadsheet that has the numbers on it. And then I wonder if there's a way we could show a different version of the spreadsheet that has the formulas on it.
I will definitely look into that. I agree. Transparency is key. Right now, we have the final report and the plans on our website. So you'll be able to go through the plans, see where your property is located and what improvements are in that area. So if you are curious about how we're going through your property, if we are, that's all on our website as well. But we'll work to make sure that those assessments get posted as well within the next couple days.
Okay.
Please speak up.
The benefits of this supposed to be for agriculture, which is almost going to be a lie because the space that we were talking about, most of this is going to be developed, as she said, they've already got plans. So this is kind of a false advertisement because that's not true. It's just not going to be helping the agriculture, and you're going to be finding people to pay for the future developments around the bottom, pay for the drainage. And what happened to the original Tri-County ditch that was paid for about 60 some years, 100 some years ago? That
So,
was.
all right, sorry, go ahead, continue.
And nothing was ever done. I remember paying some of that about 60 some years ago. But then it stopped, and so why wasn't it maintained? And now all of a sudden you decide you want to put it through. And the benefit is going to be basically for some of the people going to develop their ground around 62, and she said some was already in the process of being sold for that purpose. But we're going to be paying for the infrastructure for these people.
Let me reiterate that we didn't decide to put it through. Somebody filed a petition and we are following what our requirements are under the code. So we didn't decide to go and put this through and do that. Somebody asked for it. And then when you ask for it, we have responsibilities or requirements that we have to fulfill after the code. The assessments and things are on the parcels. So if somebody decides to sell their parcel to somebody else because it has a higher or better use, the assessments go with the parcel, and whatever's coming in to be a higher or better use, I mean economically, is going to need drainage as well. So as much as I heard of that, that's my response to the, if there's something I missed, let me know.
And our report was based on the current land use. So we did calculate how much is agricultural at the moment. So the increase in profit and crop yields was based on the current agricultural use of some of the land.
Which in 5 years will not be very important.
And your other question, based on my understanding, you're asking what happened to the petition filed originally. So land use does change. You are correct. So in the past 100 years, what was originally intended for and what the land use is now is very different. In addition, a lot of that was the subsurface drainage was using clay tile, and that has a life expectancy of about 50 years. That's why we're seeing the field tile blowouts right now, is because it's not made to last this long. And then to the other point, why wasn't there maintenance done? The Ohio Revised Code wasn't set up to have a maintenance fund set aside for these projects. That's why it was petitioned multiple times, was because there was no maintenance assessment for it.
So you guys have been through this many times, I'm sure. This ain't your first meeting on something like this. So what's your thought on us trying to fight back against you guys? Are we just wasting our time and our effort? Because there's nobody in this area wanting this. This was not what anybody was asking. And you know, like most of these people in here say, they've been living with this stuff 30, 40, 50 years. And I've been here 32 years and never had my ditch cleaned out once. So, I mean, just funny.
With the joint board of commissioners, there will be 9 present, well, and 9 invited, majority present. So I agree that coming in and offering your testimony to the joint board will be worthwhile, making sure that they hear your opinion. You know, making sure that they hear what the residents are wanting. We can only give our recommendation, but we also strongly encourage the joint board to hear what the residents are saying as well.
A lot of people have to work, got other things that they got to do. I mean, I understand it's worth, you know, missing a day's work or something like that. You know, on the other side too, there's people that just can't make it there. So that's why we're hoping that in this meeting, you guys can express your opinion, what you heard from us tonight.
You can submit your opinions in writing. I think it's personally, I think it's better if you can go to be there in person, but if not, you can submit your opinion in writing and it will be read at the meeting.
Well, she said,
And remember that there is also a virtual option. There is a Zoom meeting that you can log into, and you can log into it on your phone, on your desktop computer, on your laptop. And I believe that there is even a call-in version where you could dial in. So there are many options, and we understand that you may not be able to make it in person.
well, she sent a certified letter 2 weeks ago, and you guys still haven't received it. So there's one thing. But can we do a Zoom in a group or something like that?
There is, Abby, will you put the Zoom information back up? And we'll make sure that the Zoom link is also available on our website.
There's one more question. Ma'am, go ahead, please.
But before they ask that question, if you can, Abby, if you could just move your cursor and highlight the final hearing and the Zoom information.
Oh, my question.
And
They might not be able to hear you very well. Do you want to come up front? Right here.
Basically, this project, excuse me, I've been trying for 30 minutes to get a question out here. Obviously, this is a financial burden for a lot of homeowners. However, I live on the corner of County Line and Fancher, and it absolutely is a problem and needs to be done. But if there's enough people that they decide not to move forward with the project, then what are the options moving forward? Because that intersection is a mess, that corner floods, the road's eroding away. So if it doesn't get approved for the third part of it, then what happens? Are there other options to get this completed?
there are no other options. This is the option. And so.
So you just live with
I think that
flooding? Is that
right?
it?
I think that it brings up an important point for when you come to the meeting is to be clear about what your position is at the meeting. Is your position that it's a financial burden, or is your position that you don't think it's needed, or you know what that is? So I would encourage people to be clear about that. But yeah, this is the option.
So there's so I'm just asking for expertise. If this doesn't go through, there's no other option other than to pass the cost on to homeowners.
Not that I'm aware of, because it's an improvement to benefit private properties. You know, and it's particularly in this situation and where it lays in the landscape and the political boundaries. You know, Franklin County is not going to go and build an improvement to benefit residents of the other counties, and the other counties are unlikely to go into Franklin County and build an improvement to benefit their residents. This is the process that is set up to deal with this kind of problem. It's the best we've got. And it's been the same process in Ohio for a long time. And it's, I heard someone say, you guys have been through this lots of times, right? Actually, we haven't. We've done a few. I think Licking County does them very rarely. Probably Delaware County is more experienced with them. So it's not something that we do absolutely routinely. So it's a it's a challenging process, and we get it. And I don't think you're going to find anybody on our staff that doesn't wish there was a better way. But there isn't a better way. This is what we've got. So I wish I had something better to tell you, but I don't.
So if it doesn't go through, they just don't fix it. They just let it continue to flood. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One more question.
I just wanted a clarification. You talked about the assessments, and if this agricultural property is improved upon and built up, whether it's a shopping center with a huge parking lot or whatever, and it changes the drainage and everything, did you say that all the assessments would be reduced or adjusted because that entity that is putting more water into the watershed would be charged more? Is that the way it's going to work?
So I think it has to be looked at, and I'm going to tell you, I've never had it happen before because we don't have that many petitions in Franklin County. I think it has to get looked at to see if the assessments need to be changed and the benefit needs to be changed to do that. And Nick, if you can tell me of anything you're aware of, but I believe that those assessments, because think of the things that can happen as like a parcel gets split from, say it's a large farm field and it's 100 acres and somebody buys 50 acres to do something, and now it's split to 2 property owners instead of 1. There's a way to readjust those assessments when that happens.
But our assessments won't change. If they decide to put a Walmart with a 3-acre parking lot on the corner within the watershed, and it's draining all that water down into the watershed, you're going to increase their assessment and then consequently reduce ours because they're going to be paying more of their share?
I think that's possible, but can you leave your contact information with Nick and let me look at that more thoroughly and get back to you with a concrete answer? Because I just haven't dealt with it before. And I'll do that and get back. And then if you ask that question, or if anybody else asks that question at the commissioners meeting, if you want to, we'll be prepared to answer it there. I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. I want to look it up and give you the exact answer.
Is the transcript of everything that's going on here?
The video should be on the website in 2 to 3 days. This entire meeting was recorded. This whole thing will be on the website.
When you on the website, except on different parcels, are they going to have like topographical maps?
Ma'am, did you want to come up here? They'll be able to hear you better.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
They don't know me well enough. They did. So,
So on the availability of the map where people get assessed, is there something, not only just a spreadsheet, but does it include like topography and, am I saying that right? As part of the thing that we can see why this is assessed this and this is assessed that. I know you've got the residential by agriculture, by wooded and blah, 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 but does it also have elevation?
No.
And
The
so
spreadsheet-
everyone can see it, like you said, with transparency. I mean, because you might have 2 properties, we think they're exactly the same, but there might be things that I wouldn't notice about my neighbors. So I'm going, well, no crap. That's why it's a lot cheaper.
So-
Not only just being uphill or upstream or downstream, but just because of other things that the average layperson can glean just from a spreadsheet.
You want to answer that, Abby, or you want me to answer?
It does not include topography. So if you're within the watershed, you're all draining to the same outlet. The spreadsheet includes, that land use factor. It also includes the percent, or it's more of a weighted factor. We use out of 100, but how close you are to the outlet as well. So looking at the distance from improvement to the property as well.
Okay. So should everyone that's within this, and we're paying for this, should we expect a noticeable difference in the drainage of our properties? Because our property just tends to be like a bowl where it just sort of
So
just
you
goes
should-
right in the middle.
You should expect to have an outlet. If your individual property needs improvements to get water into the outlet, then that may need to be, but you should expect to have an outlet accessible. If you signed the petition and asked for that, if you were a petitioner who requested it. So let me clarify that. That's very important. So when the petition was filed, property owners signed the petition, and basically when you do that, you're saying, we are asking you to make a drainage improvement. And so the petition, the design then is done to solve the problems on those properties of the parcels that requested an improvement. It doesn't mean that everybody who's assessed, so people who are assessed are people who are in the watershed. So if your water drains to that, you get assessed. But if you didn't sign the petition, the design is not necessarily going to come right to your property. It's an important distinction that would have been made. So the code states if your water drains there, you're responsible for paying part of the assessment. But the design is done to solve the problem of the people who petitioned and asked for improvement.
Thank you.
Did you still want to ask the question?
We're gonna be down
Nick,
tomorrow.
before the next
Okay.
Nick, before the next question, I do want to address an issue that I've heard come up a couple of times, and that was the issue of transparency. As a director of communications, part of my job is to make sure to help and to facilitate public information going out. As we mentioned at the beginning of this meeting is extra. It is above and beyond what we are required to do so that we can answer questions about the process, and we can provide contact information. One of the things that Mr. Ramsey did is he offered any person who has the opportunity or who has questions about their specific property to contact our office, and we will review the details of their property. One thing I want to bring out is that while it may seem easy enough to just put out a spreadsheet and a map onto our website, and then everyone can clearly see how their property was assessed, it's more technical than that. It's more difficult than that. And so what we don't want to do is put out information that would lead to more confusion and more questions. So those detailed questions and those questions about specific properties, I will encourage you to utilize the contact information that we've provided. Contact Abby, contact Jim, Brady, and Donnie, so that they can answer those questions for you, because putting it out and just having a chart or a map or something like that, again, may lead to more confusion and may harm you more than it would help. So please use the resources that we have provided.
So
I apologize. More than willing to answer those questions for you.
Go ahead, sir.
If you're in the community department, it's been 3 years and we just got blindsided a month ago with this. We didn't hear anything else. We didn't hear a peep. 4 years. So the communication department, that broke leak there somewhere.
Would you like to take that one, or I can?
Couldn't hear it, so.
So the question is, what's happened and please correct me if I'm wrong. The question is basically what happened since 2019? Why are they now just hearing about it now? Is that the nature of your question?
Well,
Correct.
you had a viewing with an informational meeting before the viewing. You had a first hearing with an informational meeting before the first hearing, and then we went into detailed design where you had to have a consultant working and coordinating between 3 different counties. And so it took a while. It does. And, so it's bad enough working for one government agency, but when you got to work for 3 government agencies and they sometimes have different opinions about things as you're going through design, it took time.
But it wouldn't have been hard to give us some kind of communication over this time. You build a house, you get back and forth with the builder. There's communication along the way.
Well, the people talk about this like a long time. For a standard petition, if it was just a one county petition, we would tell somebody it's going to take 3 years. It's not, this one's a little longer, but it's not that much longer than if it was just a one county petition.
I have a question. My husband and I, our name is on some kind of a meeting that was, I think, with the township on July 18th. I don't know what year.
28.
Was it 2018? And I'm sorry, we never went to that meeting ever. So I don't know how our names got on it. I have also heard that our neighbor didn't go either, but their names, something's fishy there. They sure did something. I don't know if it's my writing, but I never, on God's Bible, came to a meeting on July 18th.
Informational meeting, July 19, 2018. Nobody went to it.
No,
Somebody made that up. It
Never.
didn't exist. It was made up. It's bogus. They were weird.
Nick, can you tell us the question, or is there a?
no.
No question, just saying that she wasn't in attendance for one of the previous meetings and her name is on the sign-in sheet.
In her writing.
So
There's several of us, but it says, and it's on your website, which is false. And it says that we attended some meeting on July 18th, 2019, or 2018.
I think three days, that's 2019, but on those websites, it's 2018.
It's on the website and it's false information.
It's time to go.
All right. Are you all set?
are there any other questions about the process? Nick Nomenko?
And I think they're done.
Okay,
I believe that there aren't any more questions at the moment.
thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.